And now I'd like to invite Annabelle Colestock, The Power of Story. The Power of Story, Annabelle Colestock.
Great, thank you, Madam Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters and guests. It was 4:30 in the morning, and my dad and I were headed out to go fish on his salmon fishing boat. I was 17, and I was just finishing up high school, one more summer at home with my parents, and I was going to be leaving to go to college and start my life. But I had one last summer, and my dad suggested I go be his deckhand for a few days on the boat. I thought, well, I don't know. It seems like it's going to be really uncomfortable, really cold, really miserable, but I think I can handle it. I was a little bit lured by the money. He said, well, you know what? If we get a lot of fish, you will take home a good portion of the profits of that salmon. So I thought, okay, my selfish little 17-year-old self said, sure, let's do it. So we did it. So it was 4:30 in the morning as we headed out to the harbor, which was very close to my house. This is Southeast Alaska that I'm talking about, and this was my hometown. And behind me here is some of the scenery that usually I would see every day. And of course, I didn't appreciate it because I was just a teenager and I didn't know what a beautiful place I was living in. Anyway, 4:30 in the morning, we head out to his boat. We walk down to the dock, get on his boat. We have all the gear. He's got all his lures. And we head out and motor out to his favorite fishing spot, secret fishing spot. All of these fishermen in Southeast Alaska have their favorite secret fishing spots that they don't let each other know about, and they don't tell people where they're at. So we motor out for several hours to get to the open ocean. And actually the weather is miserable. It is cold, drizzly, overcast, perfect weather for salmon fishing. We could never have asked for a better, if it's sunny like in the picture behind me, the salmon aren't biting. So good thing Southeast Alaska summers are mostly drizzly, cold, and overcast. So our first day of fishing, I've got to explain a little bit about how a salmon troller works. So you can see the picture behind me. A salmon trolling boat is about 30 to 40 feet long. It has two poles that come up, and the poles will hold our fishing lines. The poles will be straight as we're heading out, but then when we start fishing, we put the lures on the cable all the way down, hundreds of feet down, because we're fishing at really, really deep, at the deep sea locations. So what we do is we attach a lure to every 8 or 10 feet of this cable, and it gets dropped down into the bottom of the ocean. Each of these lures is a nice shiny piece. It's usually about this size. It is a piece of aluminum or some shiny metal that is shaped like what looks like a little herring, because that's what the salmon go for. So it's a herring shape. Sometimes my dad would take real herring and we would use that. But we would load all of these cables and lower them down. The poles have to go down to about 45 degrees, and there we go. Once you've got all of those lures down, we just motor around the favorite fishing spot and wait for, there's a little bell at the top of each of the poles. So we just motor around and wait for that bell to tinkle, because then we know that we've caught a salmon. That was the most exciting part. My dad would get so excited. He'd say, as soon as we heard a little tinkle on that pole, he'd be like, oh, Annabelle, let's go see what we've got. So he'd get the little motor going to bring up the cable and, take one lure after another off to see what we got. And sometimes we would catch some big salmon. I remember a 50-pounder one time. This is my fish story, a 50-pounder. And I was the one that would have to clean them. Well, I had to do my job on the deck. I was his deckhand. So one time he made me, clean this 50-pound salmon, and it was really, really gross, but beautiful. I mean, for him, that's a beautiful thing to see, a 50-pound salmon. So that would be the most exciting thing is bringing those fish in. My dad had this club that you'd have to bang the head of this is really awful sounding, but you'd have to bang the head of the salmon so that they wouldn't thrash around in the boat. So that was part of the fishing process too. Well, the first night, or the first maybe night or 2 nights that we were out, we ran into some huge swells, and I I thought I had really good sea legs because I've been out on boats ever since I was a little girl. And we usually traveled around Southeast Alaska in what they call the Alaska Highway System. It's a ferry system of ferries that you can go from town to town in. I really thought that I had sea legs, but I got super sick that first night. Oh my goodness, it was awful. I couldn't hold any food down. It was miserable. But after that first night, it was really good. And we had a really good time. I did catch my sea legs, and we were able to collect a lot more fish. Another time, I was I was steering the boat, and my dad was taking a little nap below. And all of a sudden, I heard the spout of a humpback whale, and it was near the boat. I panicked. I said, "Dad!" I had to yell down to the below deck, "Dad, Dad, Dad! What do I do?" Because there have been cases of some of his friends have lost hundreds of dollars of gear to getting their gear, tangled up in the whale. Now, I love whales. They're beautiful things to see and a beautiful thing to witness when they surface. But this was not the kind of not what I wanted to see. So he came up and helped me with steering out of the way, and we steered to safety. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this story. I can go on and on. There were so many other adventures that we had on that fishing trip, but it seems like I am running out of time. I just wanted to show you the power of story. We have, as humans, in our DNA, we're just wired to hear stories. So I would encourage you to pull out from your own experiences, stories, and when you do your business and when you talk to people, tell those stories, because stories have three main purposes, or among many others: to teach, to entertain, and to connect. And I think that one of the most important things that stories does is to provide a way to connect with others. When they hear your stories, they can understand where you're coming from. They can understand your values and how you view the world and connect with you. And that's what we want to do with people, right? As business owners, we want to find people to like and trust us, to like, know, and trust us. So I encourage you to bring those stories out and share them with your friends and your customers and your prospective customers, because we all love to hear stories. They're very powerful. Back to you, Madam Storyteller. I mean, Toastmaster.